are joined now by our guy Andy Kendeigh from KETV. AK, what's going on, buddy?
Fellas, happy hump day.
AK for Channel 7. How we doing, bud?
How's life with you guys?
Life is good. My man Matt Coatney, who is the GOAT, I call him Goatney sometimes when it comes to what National Day is. Today is National Roast Leg of Lamb Day, AK, and I have a fantastic leg of lamb in my freezer that I wanted to do for Easter until my mom hit the proverbial trump card and we celebrated her birthday that weekend too. So her menu won out. I'm very happy that I've got a leg of lamb that I can eat this week. AK, how about you?
Well, there you go. Maybe I'll hit up a Euro.
Oh,
Would that count?
yeah. Listen, that counts.
Euro meat's fantastic,
and it is an incredible meat. So good on you.
Yeah,
and
I'll tell you what.
That's kind of fake lamb too.
Back in the college days, fellas, we used to have a particular Euro spot, and at about I don't know, in the witching hour of 1 to 2 in the morning, there's nothing that quite hit like a Parthenon Euro.
Parthenon, nice.
Parthenon.
We had a Parthenon here, and it was notorious for things other than Euro meat. Now there was meat involved. It just was of a different club variety. Anyway,
bad choices made after midnight.
Yeah,
and that was probably one of them.
Cash Street's finest, called the Parthenon. It was incredible. Anyway, AK. Speaking of incredible, I went on this little mini rant, just a mini rant, not a full-fledged DB meltdown. I'm kind of over the whole it just means more when it comes to this Creighton, Nebraska series. And I told Ravi, you do Creighton a disservice because after you won 13 out of 16 and you won another close one last night, and, you know, Nebraska has that crazy fourth inning where they're doing Nebraska things. At some point, like, you just got to say Creighton's better in those situations against Nebraska than the low-hanging fruit of it just means more, right?
I think so. And, you know, you got to tip your hat. It's, you know, Ed Servais, how about that? His final game. And that was one of the more, you know, classic, typical, wild deals where nothing's easy. It's always going to come down to literally the last pitch. And for Ed to win that final one, you knew it had to mean a lot. He got the game ball, and he was all smiles after the game, and rightfully so. And for them to win, that's 6 straight seasons in which they've won that season series. It's just, I mean, I'll tell you what, kudos for Creighton. And, you know, their RPI is bumped up a little bit.
What are they, 50, 51? I think they're 51.
I think they were 51 or 52 last night when I checked. And that's one of those things, DD and Ravi, when you think about it, it's last night, did it matter a lot for RPI? Nah, not really. And in the grand scheme of things, it's a Tuesday night game. But don't tell that to both teams, because both teams were scrapping and clawing. And obviously, Creighton, for their circumstances with their head coach stepping down at the end of the season after so many seasons, it was unbelievable for them to get a win like that. And you got to believe that Ed was smiling ear to ear on that. And that was probably a pretty happy trip, pretty quick trip back to Omaha, that's for sure.
So, AK, I feel like we haven't really talked that much about the fact that this super long tenured Creighton coach is going to be done after this year, and they're sort of having –
well, it's the opposite of basketball, right? You don't even hear about the combo coach and waiting thing.
Right.
Doesn't even come up.
Even though they did it first, right? With you know, and so you sit here and Creighton's having this really good year in the Big East, and it feels like, and maybe I'm wrong here, maybe I'm projecting my own emotional damage here. It feels like we're all just sort of waiting for the Big East tournament to see what happens, because that's been the site of so many failures for this Creighton program recently.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I do think the Ed Servais storyline has been underplayed at this point. And, you know, part of that, though, you ask Ed Servais, he doesn't care. Yeah, but he's the last guy that cares about if his storyline's being played up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what, you know, 22 seasons, how many wins? Over 700. And this Creighton team, 32 wins on the season. You know, they're 32-13. But in the end, unless they get that RPI smidgen up a little higher, they got to win that Big East Conference tournament. I mean, is there a chance they get in if they fall in that tournament? Yes, but it all depends too on how they finish off the regular season too. They got a big series this weekend. It's the final series for Ed at home, and I do think that it has been underplayed, the storyline for Ed stepping down at the end of the season. And I got to be honest, fellas, when they announced this whole head coach in waiting, I didn't really know how it was going to work.
Yeah.
I mean, who's really making the decisions, and how are we going to manage egos and all that stuff, and the whole hierarchy? I'll tell you, it's worked like a charm. I mean, Creighton, they haven't missed a beat. In fact, I think they've been galvanized this year by Ed last season, and playing at a high level and doing what Creighton does best. You know, fundamentally sound. You know, what they did in that big inning yesterday in the fourth.
Oh, geez.
Right? They take advantage of the other team's mistakes. They put pressure on their defense, and they score 4 runs. You look up at 6-0, and that's Creighton baseball, right? I mean, that is Ed Servais ball right there. You put pressure on the other team, and the other team's going to make mistakes, and that's what happened yesterday.
What was North? Was he was like 6 for his last 40? And my man has he deals Nebraska fits last night with 3 hits, and I'm by full disclosure. I love the Sailors family because I played with and against his dad. Nolan Sailors might be one of the best offensive stories we've seen, and he certainly is the best offensive story in the state this year. He just flies under the radar.
Yeah, Ralston kid, right?
Oh yeah.
And, and he's just been steady, and he's always there. And you look up, and you're like, oh, who was that? Who was that? Oh, that was Sailor. Oh, who was that? Oh, that was Sailor. You know, that's the kind of kid he is. And but he's one of those guys that plays at the top of the lineup for Creighton over the years, and you can rattle them off. Guys who have had very successful careers at the professional level. He's the next in line. I think that does all the little things right and is constantly productive. And Nolan Sailors has been a big reason why.
He's such a. I mean, he's hitting 406.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what are we talking about?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. 400 in 12U is one thing. 400 at the Division I level is another thing, right? I mean, come on now. What are we doing?
Be honest. Were you thinking, all right, signature moment, clutch, 9th inning, runners on the corners, 1 out? Were you thinking here magic was getting ready to happen before the 2 Ks?
Yeah. You started to see the ship like kind of shaking, the Creighton ship shaking, and then even after the strikeout before Swanson came up, and you're like, oh my God, well, they still have Swanson, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this guy just hit a home run, a couple innings ago, and he's been as hot as any batter has been in the last 2 weeks in the country, and good on Creighton to finish off that deal. Clutch performance down the stretch in terms of finishing that game, and I just think it was it was a nice moment for Ed, nice moment for the program, and now they've got to kind of turn the page quickly because they got a huge series this weekend at the Chuck.
Andy, lots of things going on. High school, spring sports ramping up, track, baseball. What's the rest of your week look like?
Oh boy, this is go time, right? We got Metro Track Day 2 today at Burke, and then we've got district finals for soccer, and then by the way, the baseball state tournament starts kicking up in next week. We get pairings today for Class A. So yeah, the Metro Track Meet is one of the great events. It's like the biggest event before the state track meet. And I'll tell you what, we got our first look at Burke Stadium, the newly refurbished Burke Stadium yesterday. It's new and improved. It looks nice, and that track it'll be interesting to see how fast it is today because the finals are today for most of those running races. And we saw Ike Ackerman. We haven't even talked about him, fellas.
I listen. I'm president of that guy's fan club. He's incredible.
Class A record.
Class A record in shot put. He's closing in on the all-class record in the shot put. He's thrown a discus today. He's one of the talk about flying under the radar. Holy cow for football!
Yeah,
and this guy's gonna
and he's not going to need a babysitter either.
Unbelievable, and a good kid too, well spoken, and I tell you what, this guy is legit, and he's an easy guy to root for, and we'll see what happens today because he's going after some records. And how cool is that to break the shot put record a couple weeks ago and happen to be a legend, Larry Station, a guy who
also donned that jersey. That's a great family friend.
Cool?
Yes, it's incredible. It is incredible. Like I said, dinner at our house. AK, let me ask you something about with kind of this deal with Nebraska and whatever happens with Clearinghouse and not the Clearinghouse, the House Committee, and getting to the numbers. At what point do you think we'll look at? Do they have to win or just weather the storm? Where you go back and you look at the combination of how Dannon and Coach Rule have been so flexible throughout this process, where it seems like a lot lesser. They don't bitch and moan. When they take the podium, it's, hey, we're prepared, we're built for this, we'll adjust. There's never any, not to go all Mike Gundy, but there's never any like, well, who's going to enforce the rules or right. Kirby Smart. You know what I mean? It's like their ability to just kind of roll with it, I think, has been quietly leadership by example, because the players don't complain about much either way, right? They just seem to stay like in the moment.
Yeah, there has been a zero palms up moments between Dannon and Coach Rule, right? You're never a shoulder shrug and going, what, why is this? When I talked to Troy Dannon before the Super Bowl, and he had a great analogy. It's like, not only is it flying a plane without the manual, it's flying the plane and writing the manual as you're trying to land the plane. It's one of those deals. Like, you're constantly evolving, and you have to be nimble and have the agility and the ability and agility to kind of move quick and adjust and be prepared for any scenario. That's the thing. Like, they run scenarios in their heads. Like, hey, what happens if A happens? What happens if this scholarship limit happens? Or what happens if the numbers are this? And I think that preparation from Troy Dannon, it really speaks volumes of how they've handled this situation, because at this point, what are we? May 7th. We still don't know what the roster limitations are going to be in 3 months, in 4 months when we kick off. I mean, this is just ridiculous. And the fact that all these teams are throwing money at players before the July 1st supposed deadline, and who knows if this thing's going to pass. It is amazing to try to stay calm in the storm. And these, and Matt Rule and Troy Dannon have been able to do that. And it will be interesting to see once the settlement finally happens and what the settlement number in terms of scholarship limits will be for football, how Nebraska will handle it, because the guys that you feel for are the guys numbers 110 and to 120, 125. Like, what are they doing? They got one, you got guys who are adamant that they're going to stay at Nebraska no matter what, or do you have guys saying, you know what, I still want to play football if I can. I'd love to do it at Nebraska, but I still want to play. So that's the kind of the tough kind of the push and pull that some of these fellas are going through. But the fact that they can look to their leader and see their leader's not panicking and say, "Oh, woe is me," that's a telling thing for Nebraska football to have that leadership in place.
Okay, get you out of here on this. Came down this week that Sharon Moore is not going to be coaching Michigan for the Nebraska game. He's got the 2-game suspension, but we care about the Nebraska game, the one the most, obviously. How did that strike you when you heard that came down? Kind of random 3rd and 4th games of the season. Felt a little strange. Like, how did that hit you?
That hit me like, okay, I guess he really wants to coach at Oklahoma. He really wants to coach against his alma mater. I think it's pretty random, right? He's like, hey, coach, can you imagine that conversation? Coach, we're going to have to suspend you 2 more games. Okay. Can we just not make it Oklahoma? Okay. I don't care. Oh, Nebraska, you want to make it the Big Ten opener? Sure. Whatever. Okay. That's fine. But it just struck me as weird, like completely random. Like, why not just suspend them for the New Mexico game and Central Michigan game? Because that's as transparent as suspending a coach for the, a random Big Ten game. I mean, they've got Purdue on the schedule. They got Northwestern on the schedule. Why not suspend them for that? I just thought it was kind of weird that you're not going to have your head coach for the Big Ten opener. I don't know. It is just kind of eye rolling that this is the way they're going to do it. And, this is one of those benefits of a self-imposed penalty. You can do whatever you want. You can still say to the NCAA, hey, we suspended this coach again for games, albeit, it's the games that we choose. It's just, it just kind of speaks to the hypocrisy of the whole thing, but whatever.
Let me slide this in real quick, AK. As you're we broke this schedule down into like 3-game increments, and obviously the most daunting, at least on paper right now, are the 3 in November starting on the 1st. But how would you put those final 3 in November versus the first 3 in September in terms of level of importance at first blush?
So the September games being the opener, the first 3 games?
Yep.
Or the
first 3 versus the last 3.
Well, you better win the first 3 if the last 3 are going to mean something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That sets the table for you, especially that first one, That first game is going to be so crucial in terms of the trajectory of what Nebraska is going to be in 2025, in my opinion. Okay, because you got everything laid out for you. In fact, when you look at the schedule as a whole, you've got a whole lot of things going for it. You got a Cincinnati game that was originally supposed to be down the street in Indianapolis, now moved to basically a home game at Arrowhead in front of a sellout crowd, right? You got an Akron team who is now ineligible to go to a bowl game. Not that they were anyways, but yesterday we learned that they can't even go to a bowl game. So that's game 2. And then in game 4, you're going to play against a team that's not going to have their head coach. You have a lot of schedule breaks for you to get off to a terrific start. And you better get off to a great start, because then you can really make hay in the middle of the season, making that end of the season so important. And yes, will the November games be important? Of course they will. You got USC at UCLA, at Penn State, and then home against Iowa. But to get to that point, if you're in position, we could be talking relevancy for Nebraska and national relevance in November if you take care of business in those first 3 and 4 games of the season.
That's our guy, AK Andy Kendeigh, KETV. We appreciate it all, as always. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, fellas. DB, enjoy your leg of lamb.
I am. I don't know. So it will be in the next 4 days. It was supposed to be Easter, but Coatney's got it on the brain today, and I am going to. I already know the recipe. I Googled. I TikToked. I think I have the technique. Everything's at home. I will send pictures because it's going to be immaculate.
Leg of lamb or lamb chops?
Leg of lamb.
Which would you prefer?
Toughie. Probably the chops.
AK, do you have a preference, or are you just going gyro meat all day?
I wish it just cooked as fast as those TikToks go. You put the thing on the grill, and all of a sudden you open the grill and it's done.
I wait till I learn how to do like the camera thing where you just like fast forward, and I'd be the guy that has the awkward like blip in the film cut, and you're like, did he do this at home with pliers and duct tape? Like it seems like it's spliced.
Have your kids sit down with you. They'll walk you through it.
Oh, fudge.
I'll keep on waiting for you to figure that out.
Yeah. All right. Funny guy. Thanks, AK.
We'll talk to you later, bud.